Hey, what's up? It's after Christmas. It's December 26th. No, these aren't magic speakers that are making music without any drivers in them. I just wanted to kind of introduce this video with a little bit of nice guitar music and showing you the inside of these cabinets so far. So today, what I want to be talking about is panel resonance and bracing. Standing waves as well. We'll be talking about standing waves. So that's the reason that I've got you today. This is part 7, and I'm going to try to knock these cabinets out, finally get some drivers in them today, but it's going to start with finishing up this bracing and gusseting, okay? So anyway, I'm going to pause this video, get set up, and then we'll show you what's going on. All right, so I was really blessed, and yesterday at my son's house, he managed to cut me up a few more gussets, which I really appreciated. So Curtis, if you ever watch this, I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, he made short work of this on a real saw, not a cheap old miter box saw. So I got to show you what this. You know, he's a firm believer in quality tools to get the job done. Me, I'm the same way, but to be honest with you, like I included this miter box saw as part of this speaker build. So spending 20 bucks on this miter box saw for me was like spending money for the wood or the drivers or the crossovers or anything else I might buy for him, right? But he's got excellent saw. So this is what was taking me so long the other day, was cutting up all this wood with this little cheap saw. Yeah, so he managed to finish it off. Had I gone to his house to begin with, I probably could have cut all this wood in like 15 minutes. So anyway, if you're thinking about working on speakers, yeah, invest in some tools at some point. I'm lucky enough to, you know, I can just shoot over my son's and he can do a lot of this cutting for me. Anyway, getting back to this. So today, what I want to do is focus on getting these cabinets ready to install the electronics, the crossover, doing all the wiring, getting the original Jensen drivers back in so that I can listen to them, right? I want to assess if anything that I've done is going to improve the sound of them. And in its most basic sense, I'll be talking to you today about bracing for 2 reasons. It's going to be for canceling out some of the resonance from the panels being side panels, top and bottom panels, the front baffle, the back panel, cutting out resonance from that. So by resonance, I say that because in the same way that a guitar makes sound, that's a lot of that sound you're hearing is actually coming from the body of the guitar. Same way with any of those stringed instruments, or even, you know, I think pianos do it too, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, some of that sound is coming from the cabinets themselves. With speakers, you want as little of that as possible. You want more of that energy coming out of the front of the speaker and filling up the room with those sound waves, not emanating off of the cabinet, radiating off of it. So stiffening it up is important, and there are a number of ways you could do that, but I'm just gonna, you know, this is not scientific, it's not been planned out or anything else. I'm just gonna try to pick the most strategic places I can to tighten up these cabinets, which it raises the frequency level that this material will resonate at. And the other thing that I was going to talk about in here and try to incorporate, now that I have some extra wood to do it, is reducing standing waves. So standing waves, in its most rudimentary explanation, is that you have a driver. Let's get over here. That is like a piston Okay, and as you are electrically controlling this motor assembly, which is a coil and bobbin attached to this cone, it's going to be making waves coming out, filling the room. But it's open on the back. That's what this cabinet's for, is to add some suspension to this, and at the same time to take advantage of the sound that's coming from the back, and we can push out through a port, or that we can reinforce and have that sound emanate out of the cone itself through the material. And what happens is when standing waves get created, it's similar to a mirror. So kind of like imagine holding up a mirror. When my hairdresser gives me the mirror to see my bald spot after a haircut, you know, I can see about 1,000 of me in the mirror when I'm looking forward, and I got a mirror here, right? Same kind of deal. It's pushing out sound waves that are then reflected, boom, back into the box, straight at the back panel, and then they start firing forward, firing backwards, over and over, rinse and repeat. Standing waves now are trapped in here as this reflection of sound is in this cabinet. Those are standing waves. Now by, you know, tightening up this side baffle here, or side panel, front baffle, any of these panels, what we can do is stop those standing waves inside from making this cabinet radiate sound. So breaking it up into different size sections will help with that. The other thing that will definitely help is the insulation. So this is a polyester type of insulation I'm going to use. And by having this in there, this can also break up those waves and dampen them so that they're not so obvious. This is a open cell kind of insulation. So it's going to allow air to pass through it, sound can pass through it. But what we don't want to do when it's in there is compress it, because by compressing it, then we're just making another solid surface basically and reducing the volume inside the box. And yes, it dampens it, but it's not as effective as leaving it loose. So if it's a polyfill, you know, you kind of want it fluffy in there. If it's sheet material, you want it to be in its, you know, whatever its natural memory is of the shape that it has, not crunched up. And inside, we can line the walls with it, right? That'll help some of that reflection. If we go more than one, you know, just lay it on top of it, not pressing down on it. We can just add to that. We can keep going with this. We can either cover panels and braces, or we can do kind of like this here, where we maybe take a few pieces and accordion style in here. The other thing I want to try, and I've talked about it, and I was almost ready to give up on it because of the wood cutting situation. There's some methods for internal diffracting. It's not, no, it's kind of diffracting, but basically what it's supposed to do is reduce the waves that are hitting the back of the cone, okay, that are influencing the back of the cone and letting sound through it. I'm going to try to turn this so you can see it good. So inside of here, I'm going to be designing a kind of a trapezoid shape. Trapezoid because this is one of the more tried and true methods of reducing standing waves in commercial PA speakers, because those are often made out of really thin, light material. More often than not, they're very large. So they have, and big drivers, so they're going to have more of a problem with these standing waves than anything else. And oftentimes you'll see trapezoid shaped cabinets for that, for those applications. You'll see them in your church, concert venues, etc. There's a reason for that. That's because they're changing up the shape of the inside so that they're going to break up some of these standing waves. Okay, they're not going to keep reflecting and basically replicating over and over to a point that you're going to hear any particular frequencies coming out of that driver more than others, just coming right through the cone. So I'm going to incorporate this into the design as well. So we got that. We've got lots of little ones that are all different shapes and sizes that we're going to use to just do some gussets in here. We can add these little gussets wherever we need to. My areas of concern are definitely in here. A lot of speaker companies, the higher end speaker companies, they'll use a really thick front baffle. This is super cheesy. This is a 1/2 inch flake board, no less. So it is what it is, but we're going to have this huge woofer on here that's held on by 8 screws and a steel basket. So that actually increases the strength of this baffle. It will it'll cancel out a lot of resonance just by itself. Up in this area, we've got this chamber built in behind there, so it's really solid. So we've got some areas in here. It can still make some noise. Down in here, I'm going to brace that up. And then I'm going to really be focusing on this back panel because it's so large and flat. I want to try to strengthen that up and gusset it so that it doesn't make that resonance that you hear when I'm knocking on it. Okay, so I'm going to pause this right now. I'm going to try to put some of this in there. Let's see how it looks, and then keep chugging along. Thanks. Well, just taking a quick break here to kind of show you what's what inside of here. So I'm making some progress here. All right, so just quick check-in, running kind of low on Gorilla wood glue, and I've already kind of changed the plan as this went along. So what I've done is I've got a lot more bracing in here, gusseting mainly. I scrapped the whole wing idea, and I'll show you what I got going on here. I'll move the camera a little bit closer. Ooh, all right. So inside of here, I wound up reinforcing the back quite a bit. I used those 1/4 inch poplar pieces for 2 things. They'll cut down on resonance, and my my crossover is going to go on there. This is going to come out of the way. This is just holding another brace back in there. Let me shine the light on it for you. I'm not sure if that helps or not, but at any rate, got some bracing going on in there. And yeah, well, showing you what I can here, up inside of here. This is what I've done to secure the baffle in the front. And needless to say, this is actually quite a bit more steady, rock solid. Maybe not rock solid, but pretty good. Let me give you the knuckle test here and show you what it kind of sounds like. All right. So it's working. Doing all that gusseting is working. Even though the pieces are not that large, just the fact that they're in, you know, certain areas that can distribute the load, it's working out pretty good. So even though this is thin material, I managed to get quite a bit of just the cabinet resonance itself out of there. So, all right. So I'm going to take a. Sorry about that. I'm going to take a short break here, start working on the other cabinet, and get back to you. All right, so I'm back again, and what I've managed to do thus far is get all my gussets and braces and stuff inside these cabinets, and this one here is still clamped up. I'm going to be working on the electronics while this glue sets up. Just to kind of show you what I wound up with, and these speakers are getting a whole lot heavier. But we've got several different styles of gussets on the inside, as well as the cross bracing, the chamber. I've got some pads in there for the crossover. That'll add a little bit of extra density as well. So, got a few braces up in the top. So this is coming along nice. And next it is time to make us the crossover. So the crossover is relatively easy. And just to kind of show you again what the crossover was like that was in there. Okay, it's nothing, just some wires, some capacitors. I'm not sure how thick this wire is. At first I was thinking it might be 20 gauge, but it is, I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to use it, but then again, it's pretty thin. I do have some other wire that's, it's like a 18 gauge pure strand copper. It's made for in walls by Honeywell. It might serve the purpose for this. I think first I'm gonna try seeing what these are like when I snip off one of these ends and see if maybe this will do it. But with this crossover, the way this is gonna work, so let's get this other thing we're going to need. This is binding post. Alright, so yeah, arthritis not as strong as it used to be. So this 5-way binding post will fit in that hole exactly. So that'll fit right there, just like it was before. That'll be good. And the concept being, just like before, we came off the spring terminal. Now we're coming off of here, and we're going to have probably these are going to be just, you know, well, these are actually soldered on, so that was a pretty good job. So I may follow suit and do the same thing. You know, while I was working on these speakers, I realized I just nicked that contact paper on the corner. It's peeling up a little bit. I'm going to try to use a little trick with either some super glue or nail polish. Clear nail polish to hold it down. All right, so the crossover on this. All right, so I'm hoping you can see this. But basically, we've got an in, negative, in, positive. So your power coming in is going here, right? This is soldered to this plate here, which is feeding into an iron core inductor, and then back down, so on and so forth. Now, where we're going to pick up our speakers at, so we've got from the binding post here feeding it. Then we've also got, this is kind of hard to read because it's white against silver, we've got the tweeter positive and the mid-range positive and the woofer positive. So these three, each one will go to the positive lead on the, you know, the tweeter, the mid-range, and the woofer. Then these are your commons down here. So these will feed back to the negative side. Okay, so each one of those will also go to a speaker. These are actually going to be mounted inside the cabinet in such a way that my wiring can be minimal and clean. I'm going to take you for a little tour here of this speaker. And so basically, this is how we're going to set this guy. We're going to have our binding post down here. We're going to be feeding it. All right. We're going to have the tweeter that's uppermost, mid-range second, then woofer third, and then just some short leads that go from the woofer. You got to have enough so you can pull the woofer out and work on it, but you don't want so much wire hanging that it's rattling around. And then these ones here, I can actually sneak up inside of here, up alongside there. So that'll work out pretty good. All right, so we're getting to the nitty gritty. When I come back, I'm going to have some of the wiring and the crossover done so you can see that. All right, so I'm going to take a real quick break here to show you something. I did strip back one of these wires and I'm going to move it in real close. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that it'll focus. But I'm not sure if you could see how thin that is or not, but it is tiny. Like, I'm not sure even what gauge this is. It's super thin though. This is not going to work for what I'm doing. Yeah, I have no idea what gauge it is. Maybe 28 gauge or something. It's really thin. So, let's see. So what I did round up here, or dig up, is I've got some 14 gauge pure copper wire. And I'll put this next to it for comparison. So I'm going to have this feeding the crossover. So this will just go from my 5-way binding post to the crossover itself. This will provide plenty of current capacity, as well as it'll definitely have like no resistance on it at all. So that'll be good. And plus this is the same gauge wire I'm actually running to my speakers. So that'll work out. And then going to the drivers themselves, what I'll use is a 18 gauge pure copper wire, which you can see is considerably larger than what Jensen had used. And so I'll have the black and the red for the woofer. I'll have the other colors. Actually, you know what? I might even use a different color for the woofer. Yeah, but I'm going to use black for all the commons, and then I'll use colored for the various drivers. So I just wanted to show you that. I hope you could see it, and that's it. So I'll come back in a minute. All right, I'm going to show you what I got going on so far, just so you're keeping up with me. All right, so crossover. And these wires, the thicker wire, the 14 gauge, is going to go from your 5-way binding post to the in, feeding the crossover board. And next, I've got a couple of wires that are long enough. This is a 4-wire cord, and the idea being is that we're going to have enough room to basically come down to the crossover and then have, you know, enough wire for tweeter and mid-range. Okay, so that's going to be for the tweeter and mid-range, and these will be tapped into these jacks. This is a common. All right, now we've got mid-range and tweeter. As far as colors go, I haven't picked out the colors. I know I'm going to use black for one of the commons, but color choice, as long as you can remember what's on what end, and I'll probably mark it as well. It's not that big a deal. And for the woofers, what I'm going to have is this 2-wire cable, and so that'll go from the woofer, common, and positive, and this is enough cable here to where I can picture it's connected to the woofer, to the crossover and the woofer, and there's still enough room to get that woofer out and disconnect this. So I just wanted to show you that. Next step, I'm going to be soldering these to the crossovers, and then I'll come back and show you what that looks like. All right, so I just wanted to show you kind of what I've got going on so far. This is the 4-wire cord that's going to go to the tweeter and the mid-range. You can see that I've soldered them onto this crossover. Here's the woofer, and then here's the actual power feed going into it. So next step is going to be mounting this into the cabinet and kind of routing the cords and soldering on the ends to the 5-wire or 5-way binding post. And yeah, then we're getting ready to put some insulation in there. Get the insulation in there. Whew. Then it's time to put in some drivers. So it's getting close. Thank you. All right, well, it is getting late, and I have gotten about as far as I want to get with these tonight, which is all the crossover and wiring is done in here. So I figured I'd take you for a quick tour and kind of show you what's what here. So let's move in closer here. Bear with me. Collapse this tripod. Turn on my light. All right, so hopefully you can kind of see in here. We've got the crossovers mounted. And we've got our wiring done. I use a little bit of hot glue just to, you know, like down in here and in here, just to hold that wiring from rattling. If we go up inside of here, same kind of thing up in here. Got some hot glue just to hold that still. And then this guy is actually coming in right through here. And like I had mentioned, I had decided to use this multicolored 4-wire cable. So I'm using the green and the white for the tweeter and the red and the black for the woofer. I chose to go with black as my common for the mid-range and white as the common negative, you know, for the tweeter. And then my woofer wire is ready to go. So next step really is just to get the, well, we're gonna get all that insulation in there, or a lot of it. So anyway, let me turn this guy around here. I don't know what this is gonna look like, but anyway, it's been a long day. It's dark outside, and it's time to go downstairs and eat some dinner and watch some TV. So there we go. That's better, ain't it? Sorry about that. All right. So this was part 7. Just going through this one last time real quick. Part 7 was putting in the gussets, mounting that crossover, and running the wires. Oh, and I fixed this little doodad up here that you saw. There's a new 5-wire binding post, intact. So we are ready for some insulation and loading some drivers, and we will be rocking and rolling, man. Over and out.